Welcome, Ghosties, to episode 62 of the Ghost Lights podcast. This evening, we sat down with Lisa Young and talked about how her love of theater was born on the streets of New York and what she thinks representation and equality in the theater community looks like. Please bear with us this episode as we found some technical issues on my end where I sound like a disordered monster, but don't be scared. It's still the Ghost Lights podcast. Once again, this episode is brought to you in part by Destination Freedom Radio Days, a podcast curated by our good friend Danielle Betts. We guarantee you will not regret listening to them. So find them anywhere you get your podcast from after you're done listening to us, of course. And if you're still looking to scratch that theater viewing itch, please visit thewhiskeytasting.com for tickets and information on how to be a part of the Catamounts and off-center production, The Whiskey Tasting. Now, Dan, give me some of that War by the Hypnotic Brass Ensemble. Ghosties, it is your boy, Sam Gilstrap. We are back again. This time, the amazing, the hot fire that cannot be contained, Lisa Young. Lisa, how are you?
I am, I'm doing really good. I got my vaccine on Saturday and my right arm is kind of stiff and sore. Yeah. But other than that, in a good place. Lost a good friend recently in the theater world. Lucy Rucius, we give a shout out to that. Lucy's in the Sky with Diamonds, beautiful woman. But yeah, other in a mental space and good, physical space and good, doing well.
Good. Was that your first shot or the last one?
No, it was the first one.
Okay, right.
I work as an educator, so I got bumped up on the list there.
Nice.
I got that first shot. So I'll be a zombie or whatever when they turn on the microchips soon.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to that. I get my second shot on March 6th. So.
Oh, nice. I think I'm right behind you.
Cool.
The 13th of March, yeah.
I mean, I figure I already got a smartphone. What else is another microchip inside me?
Come on, talk about it. I mean, I was talking about sunflowers the other day, and now on social media, I keep getting all these ads for sunflower jewelry. So yeah.
Oh man, the algorithms, they're checking in on everybody. They got tabs. And they know what you're doing. They know who you're talking to.
There was a time I thought, oh, that's just another conspiracy theory. Nobody cares who I'm talking to and what I'm doing. But now we see, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, they do care. That's why there's hashtags. That's right. So
especially if they're selling me something, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, it's not like anyone would take this opportunity to sell anyone on the Ghost Lights podcast hosted by Sam Gilstrap, where we drop new stuff every week. That's right, baby.
Dear Siri, Ghost Light.
Ghost Light. Put that on my Facebook thread. I want to see it. All right, Lisa.
Ghost Light.
Tell me, theater, how did it happen to you?
I'm going to take you back a couple of decades. I was a little girl in New York City. And my godmother, she took me to see Broadway shows, off-Broadway shows. I grew up in Louisiana. I was born in Louisiana, I should say. I don't want to lie. And I grew up in New York, New Jersey before I even hit Colorado. And one day I was just walking by the auditorium at my school in the Bronx, PS 85. And they were doing something, singing and dancing and acting or something. I stuck my head in. I was like, I don't know what's going on in here, but I went in and I just had a seat and they were like, do you belong in here? I was like, yeah, I belong in here. And my godmother told her about that. And she used to kind of work between the city of New York and Broadway and bringing kids in to theater. Mm-hmm. She took me to see Mama, I Want to Sing. I got to see Sweeney Todd. I got to see The Wiz. And it was The Wiz seeing Stephanie Mills and going, oh, wait, we do this too? Black people do this too? You know, like big time? and I was hooked. That was all it took, was to see someone who looked, and I believe Stephanie Mills may have been almost 20 or in her late teens when she did that show. I had to maybe look that up, but I was like, that's me,
Mm.
you know, and the love. And then after that, I was in all kinds of, I believe I played a tree, a blade of grass, or something crazy, you know, uh, and was hooked from that moment forward. And I was probably 5 years old, 5, 6, 7 years old when
What was it specifically about seeing those shows that like sparked that within you?
it was just the magic. I will tell you this much. I remember, this is a funny story. I remember seeing Sweeney Todd, and I remember seeing like people die on stage, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I freaked out. I was like, "Oh my god, they just killed someone!" My godmother grabbed me by the collar, took me out in the lobby, and the question was, "Do you want to go home, or do you want to go back in and watch the magic?" And I knew if I went home and she was going to miss that show, it was not going to go well for my little life. So I want to go see the magic. And it took like me understanding, oh, they're acting. This is not real, but it looks so real. And it, I there were times where I would just like laugh or cry and just be transported instantaneously. And just being a kid living in the Bronx, it was just like, oh my goodness, there's something better than what's going on out in these streets. And it's beautiful. And what do you mean they tear it all down at night and start over again? So yeah, it was the magic for me. And like I said, I think the spark or the catalyst was seeing, you know, all Black, beautiful bodies up there singing and dancing and doing it.
Yeah.
And just seeing the magic. And then I remember being very mad when the movie came out, and like they did what do you mean to tell me you didn't cast Stephanie Mills, Diana Ross? She's too old, and being opinionated, um, about that. I think yeah, I was stuck. I was stuck like glue. Mm-hmm.
Nice. So the magic was real for you. What it did for you.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
And wound up, I was a latchkey kid. My parents were born in Louisiana. They were from Louisiana. And so my dad got a job at Western Union in New York, and that's how we left Louisiana to go to New York City. And I will say my education then, we got to go see all of the museums, being a part of all the festivals, Shakespeare in the Park, all of those things. I was really open, my eyes were open, I should say, to the arts at a young age. And I remember television at first, watching PBS, and Masterpiece Theater was presented on TV, and staying up late at night as a little kid. And don't tell anybody, I know I'm saying this on a podcast, but don't tell anyone, like watching Benny Hill and the filth of Benny Hill. Should not have been watching, but I thought, this is amazing. This medium is just amazing. This art, and yeah, like hook, line, and sinker. I was just grabbed. And then when I realized that not only people did it filmed on television, there was what live action that and I could do this too. So yeah, it was that, seeing that magic. And like I said, being a part of, then I wound up being a part of the AGATE program, the Arts AGATE program at my school, and being able to build the set, having famous actors and people come in and talk to us and, touch things and see how, the Sweeney Todd barber chair, was a slide, and they just went down in a hole and landed on a big cushion and everybody was fine. But here I am in the audience thinking, that's real blood. People are dying. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So
Oh,
Yeah, my little girl eyes were just like probably as wide as dime or quarters or silver dollars, you just and I remember there was a show that my godmother refused to take me to because of how inquisitive I was.
mm,
And she said, I would take you to see this, but there's so much going on. You're going to be spending more time trying to look up and see, how they're flying in things and I really wish I can remember what show it was. And I was very disheartened that she wouldn't take me because I was like a sea of questions afterwards.
mhm.
Well, how do you think they got that horse on stage? It wasn't a horse. It was a couple of people in, dressed in looking like a horse. Or how did they drive that car? It was, just the front end of a car. No, that was a whole car. How did they change those clothes so fast? Or, it was. I remember like being very inquisitive and wanting to know everything. What's going on behind the stage, and
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of narcissism too. Seeing myself
See
doing
yourself,
all that.
yeah, rocking it out there. It
Mhm.
seems like it was important for your folks, including your grandmother, was taking you to these shows to like
Godmother.
expose godmother,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
godmother
Mhm.
to expose you to these mediums.
Yeah. Like I said, I feel my education growing up in the Bronx, growing up in the public school system in New York City, we had more field trips to ballet, opera, plays, musicals, and then, like I said, they were bringing in folks, and we were exposed. And yes, my parents, um, they were more than happy for me to be involved and supported in the early years. I'll say that. I'll put a button on that. In the early years, they were very supportive of
Yeah.
the crazy, because it's crazy
Oh
what
yeah,
we
it
do.
is. It's the good kind of crazy though.
Phenomenal
Yeah,
crazy. I'd take
yeah.
it any day of
We
the
don't
week.
need treatment. We get it every night on the stage.
Hmm. I agree.
So talking about seeing Stephanie Mills and The Wiz, someone who's indoctrinated to like masterpiece theater, seeing Benny Hill, things of that nature. Were you aware, even at a young age, of your lack of seeing people who looked like you, black faces on stage, or is that something that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, I'll share a story with you. There was this program. I won't name the program because it's a very famous after school program in New York. And I kind of, another time I feel like my mom probably enrolled me in it, but then I like made sure I didn't miss anything. And they were putting on a play about princesses.
Mm-hmm.
And they had all the princesses, and it wasn't like the Disney. They took like Sleepy Princess and not Sleeping Beauty, or they changed it around, and it was this story about. And my memory is failing me, and we'll get into that
Okay.
momentarily too. But it was more of like all the princesses were having a beauty pageant, and they had to show their talents, and they had to say why they should be the best princess or something. And so I was like, oh, I want to be a princess. And they were like, oh, I'm sorry, just don't, we don't have any black or brown princesses for you to play. And I was like, oh, I really want to be a princess. And so they made up a character, Princess French Fry. And it was because she was brown. And now that I'm older, I was just excited to be a part of it. I get to be Princess French Fry, and I need a brown swimsuit and brown dress. And now that I look back on it, I know it was probably discrimination and racism sticking out its ugly head. But yeah, that throughout my formative years as a kid in theater, in after school theater programs, it was very much so at the forefront of what conversations were with my teachers and directors of, oh, let's see what could Lisa be in this show.
Mm.
It's, and even like when I lived in the Bronx, like I said, I went to a neighborhood school where it's predominantly black and brown children, So that's probably where I got the most opportunity. Then moved to Asbury Park, Neptune, New Jersey, down in the Jersey Shore. And I remember we were doing the show, The Monkey's Paw, I think it was. The casting was, this is a family, and you wouldn't fit into the family. So we'll have you do stage management or work with lighting or costuming or something like that, because we just don't have a spot for you. So yeah, it was very apparent then that, apparently no one ever had a blended family. No one ever had, black and brown children with white parents, which we know they're adopted families, and there are families that you have biracial children, or children of a black dad, black mom with a white, Asian, Latin, whatever. So it was very apparent to me at a young age, the inequities of being on stage. So yeah, seeing this fully black cast and directed and musical direction, brand new adaptation of The Wizard of Oz. It was very much so like the eye-opening experience that I always go back to, saying, I can really do this. It's tangible. It's in my reach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder, when you were faced with those obstacles, were you ever discouraged to the point of thinking about cutting theater out of your life?
This is that part about especially Black families, I think, when a child is saying, oh, I want to be an actor and I want to, do this life of being in the arts this way. I think that's when you have this conversation of how feasible is it for you. In fact, when I decided to go to college, I really, I was offered a couple of scholarships for theater and was lovingly talked out of it, because it was like, you won't have a career. You won't be able to sustain a living wage. And do you really think this is something that is safe for you to do? And I can understand that, now looking at the environment that we are in right now, or even the atmosphere of, siloing Black shows into February. Happy Black History Month, everybody. It's like, to do that one Black show. And it's amazing. Like, I've been hearing more and more how that mindset has sculpted many famous actors. Their lives is like, oh, they do that one show a year, or that one Black movie a year, so you better get in. And I believe I just watched this documentary on Netflix. I will look it up. I gotta remember the name. But I believe that was a Robert Townsend quote of like trying to make it in Hollywood and how he wound up doing Hollywood Shuffle. The movie is like, the only way I'm going to be able to do this is if I do my own thing, right?
Yeah.
And so it did. It was there, but because of this whole thing, well, since you're here, can you make the program? Since you're here, can you costume this? Since you're here, can you do stage management? I feel like I have a more well-rounded theater background because I've done a little bit of everything. I never gave up. I think I was either too hard-headed or too optimistic. Too stubborn to give up.
I'm gonna go with optimistic. You've always struck me as somebody with a beautiful, buoyant energy about you. And then if you were being presented with those types of obstacles, it's clear that you never let that stop you, because we're here sitting talking now. But you also didn't strike me as somebody who would have. It's because it's a part of you. And so that's like a key thing about any of us artists, is that at some point we see a performance, we hear a song, we see a dance routine, a painting, and that just becomes the part of our DNA, and we have to live up to what we saw that one moment. Maybe we're chasing that for the rest of our lives, but there's nobody or nothing that can effectively stop you from pursuing that once you've tasted it for just a second.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Completely.
So as you've matured within the career, you go to college, you're out performing, working in a school right now. How have you seen the theater landscape change? Was it a slow progression? Or are we not even there yet?
No, we're not there yet. In fact, I think we've gotten worse instead of better. Uh, there are more opportunities, and when I speak to this, I'm not only just speaking about Denver. I look at the changes, the sweeping changes that are going on right now, especially with this past summer. We see you White American Theater and theater folks of color, all these movements that have come because I think people probably put the sword in the sand and was like, we're not going any further. Okay, we're going to fix this now. Having been on theater boards and been a part of creations of theaters that did not quite work out or other things, yeah, I've seen a lot. And I will say there was a lot of complacency, you know. You should just be happy that you're being cast, or you should just be happy that you're, it's like, really? Really? And I will say I took a hiatus because of health between college and my quote unquote semi-professional professional career. And yeah, I saw a lot that I spoke out. I was very outspoken and spoke out about my feelings, about the way things felt to me. And I'm glad to say now where we are. We're not there yet. I'm glad to say that my instincts, my gut instincts were right, that there was a lot of inequities, there was a lot of injustice, a lot of, deep-seated white supremacy and racism and discrimination and ableism and elitism that goes on in theater and all arts. I will say the more that I work with ideas, the more I'm seeing things at museums, at ballet companies, and I always go to this thing with my own personal trials as an artist, makeup, tights, being told, oh, we can't find your color. Can you go out and get your own? Or, we can't find that those tights, and even like now makeup is crazy to me because I'm like, really? Makeup. There are Black companies, and you can't find makeup or even like the Queen Latifah line of, I want to say CoverGirl. It might be Maybelline, but one of them. There sure. are lines that celebrities have founded, and you're saying you can't find my shade. And tights are almost impossible. And I'm someone that once I find something, I probably buy like 5 pair at a time.
Yeah.
Because they are the ones that are, we don't sell those, so we got rid of that color in our line. So yeah, it costs a lot to be a person of color, a Black woman acting.
Yeah.
And going on, not being reimbursed at all. Sometimes it's just like, great.
That's disheartening. I mean, how much work you have to do outside of honing your craft in order to even have the career. It seems like it's almost like you have to come prepared for any of the contingencies that they can't meet or rise to the occasion.
Hair sizes them, I've been told by costumers, I want to fit you, but do you have a skirt that you could bring in? I can't find anything. It was like, It is funny. I walked in here fully dressed, I'm not naked when I walk in the door, and I know a lot of costumers aren't builders, they don't build the costumes themselves, but or create costumes. They are more hunter gatherers. It's like it's amazing to me. Once again, there are whole industries. Lane Bryant.
Yeah.
Some of these stores that built their entire fame on has been on sizes 14 and up. So it's funny to me that when a customer tells me I can't find anything to fit you or anything crazy like that. And this brings me also to, I've been asked in the past why I never, especially in Colorado, attempted to become an equity actor or a union actor. And I was like, because it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Right? If there's 200 of us in this town that, theater companies are saying we don't know of any actors of color, except for maybe the 6 of us, who like will run anywhere and do almost any part for almost no money, right? In community theater. It's amazing to me that people think that, well, why don't you become an equity actor? And it's like, well, there are some things you have to do to become an equity actor, and you have to be in a certain number of equity shows to even apply. And it's just supply and demand, right?
Yeah. A lot of people fighting for limited spots.
Exactly. So that's not sustainable, and unless you leave Colorado, and then even coming back, is it feasible to come back and jump in under the current climate? And I'm saying current as in like 2020, the 20s.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way, right?
How do you feel? Let me first backtrack here. Ideas, the company that you mentioned, the thing that's kind of showed you, opened up windows into other walks of theater life where you've seen people being disenfranchised and being barred from active success in their chosen profession. What is the mission statement of Ideas, if you will?
I think I'd rather tell you the story and then get into our mission vision.
That'd be great.
Currently, okay. So, with the pandemic rearing its beautiful head, but because of my work with the Colorado Theater Guild, I kept getting all of these emails asking, what we were planning to do as far as like coming back safely into theater, as far as what safety precautions we would feel safe, in doing. Would you feel safe if we had, 6 feet in between the chairs? Would you feel safe if there were people guiding you into the bathroom, hand sanitizer? All those things were like asked, and it was like, what are you going to do to keep us safe from white supremacy in theater? And this was after, of course, the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and so many others.
Elijah.
Right? Yeah, Elijah McClain, most definitely. And it's like, what are you going to do to keep Black and brown and broken bodies safe in your companies, in these buildings, from the trauma that we have to sustain, even in playing the same roles over and over again? And so I had been dreaming for a very long time about what diversity looked like in the theater realm, and what companies could do and come together and make, equity, diversity, inclusion, and access, because I am an actor who lives in an intersection of being a woman, of being Black, of being disabled. So there was more to me. I had my first stroke when I was 15 years old. And so I gathered with a bunch of friends, picked up the phone, made a bunch of phone calls, and we drilled it down to what our mission could be. Is we would galvanize theater makers to take demonstrable action toward inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. and that's where Ideas was born. And I looked at, we had EDI statements or GEI. I was like, we have inclusion, diversity, equity, and access or accessibility. I have an idea.
Hmm.
What if we took the community and we created pillars that we could all stand on, and everyone could feel safe on these pillars, right? On how to create theater safely, how to create theater with humanity in mind. So then we had a group of us who came together, and we opened up a Google document and just started throwing ideas in there about what would it look like if you are, a transgendered person. What would make you feel safe in theater? Or what would it look like if you are a disabled person? What access would you need if you're a woman who has done this work in leadership, but you're not getting paid the same as a man doing the exact same job, or doing a lesser job than what you're doing? And so that would be the first armor of ideas, is to have these pillars that were co-authored by the community, and then working with collaboration and building databases. So when you're hit with, well, I don't know of any indigenous folk, men who do acting, who have beards and wear glasses, like Sam Gilstrap, or
thanks for the hookup.
Hey, I was called for Sam. Or I don't know of any Latino lighting or sound designers, and I would really love them to come in. Or, to have egregious casting that goes on in this community. And, the shows that always come up are West Side Story, In the Heights, Once on This Island, where you just have, well, I don't know anyone. So we love the music, we love the story, we love the show. We're going to put it on, whitewash it, or black, brown, yellow, red face it. And it's fine, right? Hey, at least we're putting forth this story about these people without these people, right? I'm also a longtime member of Family Theater Company. And, it's the thing of, why aren't you casting disabled people to play disabled roles instead of gimping it up and having an able-bodied person, and you're taking away those roles from, it is a small community, but there's also pipelines that are being created for individuals who might have the want to do this work, but, how many times in your education did you see someone say, oh, we're doing a Christmas Carol, and Tiny Tim, we've got a kid here at our school who uses crutches to get around. He might want to learn how to become an actor. Let's talk to him about playing that role and other roles. Because I don't know about you, but there's a lot of disabled people in my family. There's a lot of disabled people in my community. So shouldn't our communities be reflected on our stages?
Yeah.
And I'll get off my soapbox for just a second. But and then the next piece of ideas is the community, where we have open conversations, where we help each other in learning about, how do you go about doing this? How do we talk to each other? And more importantly, listen to each other, right? Because I don't think I'm the only one who's screaming in the wind for years about the inequities in theater. And I'm not even talking about just casting. I mean, if you look at leadership, if you look at, creative teams and staffing, board memberships, what do they look like? Do they look like the communities they dwell in? Are marginalized and underserved people requested to be on boards, taught how to be on boards, invited onto boards, invited to even volunteer in theaters? And a lot of times I've heard things like, well, we put on those shows, but they just don't show up. And I was like, do you talk to people?
Yeah.
Do you outreach outside of your own little bubble of friends? And then when you do invite people in, is your predominantly white institution and organization prepared not to cause more harm, right? You bring people in and say, oh, well, I tried to hire Lisa Young as my group sales manager, and she didn't know what she was doing. And but then again, I didn't provide her with the material she needed to do her job, or there are closed conversations that we all know happen, and you're not invited in that access piece.
Yeah.
So that's where ideas came from. So
Nice. That's great. And by the way, don't ever apologize for being on your soapbox here. This is a forum for you. I wonder.
Once again, thank you, because that's that white supremacy I live in. It's like, I'm taking up too much time with myself.
Not here, not here.
Thank you.
When you think about equality on stage, what does that look like to you?
So equality on stage starts all the way back before you even get to casting, before you even get to promoting a show. It for auditions, a lot of times people think when we talk about this work, we're only talking about casting. Representation from top down, and I hate to use that top down analogy, is because theater, there shouldn't be any, in my community, we call it big eyes and little U's, right? There's big eyes and little U's. If I were to build a dream theater company, it would be a theater company that was led outside of the realm of the patriarchy, led outside of the realm of white supremacy. It would be where artists and producers and designers and technical people and staff were given agency to do their best work in their best framework. Okay, what works best for you, right? Because we all learn differently, and we all come to this big, beautiful pie differently. Even if we're all, if we all have background through education, there's different, there are people who argue with you which method is better in acting, right? So we all come from these different experiences and backgrounds. So it should be more of a beautiful circle. What do you call it? Concentric circles. This is something I've been working on. I thought I've had in my head about leadership too. Concentric circles, and where people are able to express their needs, right?
Yeah.
And there's representation. And if you don't have that representation, there should be open conversations with who you know, and if you don't know someone, how you get to know people, how you bring people in. And so it would start with, who are your producers? Who's your ED? Who's your AD? Who are your directors? Let's talk about lighting. Lighting of my skin tone is completely different than lighting of other people's skin. White folks and yellow folks and red folks and brown folks, we all should be lit differently. What is it? Is it the Pantone colors? Come on, Sam, you don't know about it either. All right.
Don't put me on the spot.
And I'm not going to do. I'm not going to do it to both of us, but I will talk in a roundabout way of what I think I've seen. And there used to be, especially Kodak, I want to say, or some of the picture people, the photography folks, where they had like these models of how you light skin, right? Skin tone. Yeah. And there was almost no representation of deeper, darker, richer hues of skin tone. And so, you put me under a bunch of light that might look good on a very pale woman with blonde hair, and I'm washed out, or look orange. That's why, it's important that if you don't know those things, you go find someone who does, or go do some research, or take a class, right? Absolutely. And we have this thing called the internet now, so there's really no excuse for the I don't know anymore. Does that answer your question? Because I do talk in a roundabout way.
Well, no,
So,
definitely. I mean, to a certain extent, it does. You want to put people who exemplify the community by which they're trying to entertain in positions of managerial power, creative power. You want to provide. I think when you're talking about agency, and please kick me off this mansplaining tip anytime you want to.
no,
But you're talking
I
about.
asked for it this time.
I think when you're talking about agency, I think really what that boils down to and is giving people the confidence to advocate for themselves through their work and their art in this particular instance.
Yeah, and the other thing is also meeting people where they are. If I ask a question, not to be put down because I don't know something.
Yeah.
Don't have this expectation that everybody's coming from the same place.
That's huge.
Yeah, and with this work that I've been doing, I've gotten a lot of, questions about, well, how would I go about doing this, or who do you know? But then I helped a theater company this past summer with some of their mission statement, and there were words in there like talented, competent, and I was like, by whose standards? By whose standards are you or parameters are you asking people if they're talented, right?
Yeah.
Because if I am an actor who has not been given access to work at a LORT theater company or under different, great example, I'm name drop a little bit, Steve Wilson, who I work with in family, has taught me so much about Shakespeare, and have taken Shakespeare in high school and taken Shakespeare in college and everything. And then there's just things that I'm just like, oh, I went to a historically Black college and university. I was never taught that about, and it wasn't like, oh, you didn't know that. There was no, it wasn't where I felt belittled for my lack of knowledge or my questions. Mm-hmm. Like I was belaboring, the process. If I had more questions than other people who had different backgrounds and experiences. And I think that's what theater is truly missing, is like the heart, that passion and compassion piece, right?
Mm-hmm. So there's something to be said for like when you are working in a collaborative environment where you treat every opportunity to learn together about something, because as you said earlier, we're not all coming to the table with the same experiences, whether it's a room full of white people or a room full of Black people. There's differences amongst those groups too. Mm-hmm. It's only reasonable that there would be differences when the room is full of diverse people working on a specific project. You want to level. When we're leveling the playing field, we want to provide agency so that they do feel like they can get the most out of their work and the most out of the people around them by not being afraid to ask the questions that they need to ask. Mm-hmm. So often I feel like that's something that, when I was a young actor, not from a personal racial inadequacy that I felt within myself, I was just so eager to be great from Jump Street when I got out of college that I never asked questions. It was like, oh, no, I got it. Whatever the note is, I figured it out. Sure, whatever. Yeah. And that was something I put in my brain. I was like, oh, that's how you just keep getting work, because you're easier to work with.
Exactly. This, I just posted something in the Ideas Facebook page about this diva, mentality, or the dichotomy of being a BIPOC actor or actor from a marginalized community asking questions, as opposed to, and I've seen it. I have seen it. I've even seen where I've been in a show where, and I'll give the name of the show, but I won't say which production because I've been in 3 of them. Hairspray, where the white cast was given a plethora of notes, and it was like, oh, okay. And then when you get to the Black cast, it's really like no notes. She's like, oh no, you did a great job, but everything's great. Keep doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that, we just lost the opportunity to learn, right? To be better actors. You just kind of told me everything you're doing is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was fear or what, or just like, oh, I got 6 Black people to show up and do this role. I'm not going to make them mad and lose them, and that goes back to that scarcity mindset of there's not enough work and you're the best I could get to come, and you're not professional anyway, so do what you want and I'm not going to bug you, or so I've had that experience too, which is disheartening, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I looked at it as I bring a notebook, I'm ready. I have my script, and I have like a whole empty journal for almost every show that I do, for like, I'm gonna take notes. And then also for learning my lines, I do have a cognitive disability, and I've got a couple of strategies that I use for learning long monologues or even Shakespeare or learning songs. So it was very disheartening that, I would go home and those notebooks would be empty.
Yeah.
From notes. Yeah.
It feels like
unworthy of learning, unworthy of getting, told how to be better.
Yeah.
I
think you're very close to this. It's a white privilege based fear. I don't want to alienate them by giving them something that's negative. That I'm sure that exists in some of those pockets where they're not fully committed to giving you the note that you may need or want, because they don't trust you to process it like a professional. When all any of us are asking for as artists is to treat us like we're artists.
Show me. Yeah, exactly.
Treat us like we're artists. We're trying to make something work together. Yeah. Interesting. What are some of the ways in which you help learn your lines, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, sure. Well, one of my strategies, and like I did mention before, I had a stroke. My first stroke was when I was 15. And then I had a couple of TIAs, which are little baby or mini strokes. So I do have a few memory issues. So if you ever hear me go, or I need a word or something like that, it's more than just old age. I'm sure old age will make this even more fun. But the first thing I do is I try to record my lines with the characters or actors, because hearing it, and I listen to my lines ad nauseum. I even put on headphones and go to sleep and listen to the voice of the words and the cue words on there. For very long passages, a friend showed me this method where honestly you write it all out. It's work. And that's one thing I want young actors to know, that this is work. We get to play, but this is work. You have to put in the work to get to play, right? And so the first thing I do is take all my scenes, any long chunks, any long monologues, anything more than 6 lines, 3 to 6 lines, I write it all out. And then I get lined paper and I write it out again. And then I go back and skip a line, right? I write it out, skip a line, write out a sentence, skip a line. And then I go back and I write all the initials of each word, right?
Wow.
So I know it's work, but it's the way my brain processes things, and I do put in the work. And then I take all of those initials and I put them on a separate sheet. Mm-hmm. Then I go back and I cover up the line where the sentences are, and I try to read just the initials and make, so the best example of this is IPATTF. What would that be if you thought about it? It's something you've said since you were in first grade. You know this.
IPTTF? I plead the fifth.
You said that since first grade, Sam. No. I pledge allegiance to the flag of
Oh, no, I was taking an E when I was in elementary school. Kidding.
Stop it. You better not be pleading the
Kidding.
fifth. You better not. You shouldn't have to.
No.
But no, yeah, so and that's the thing is repetition, right? We learn even things like the Pledge of Allegiance because we got it, we said it every day. I've got thoughts about that too, but we won't go there during this chat tonight. But and then those initials, I would learn monologues that way. And then I would get to a point where I would just get rid of the fully written out monologue, the skip a line, and just do the initials to learn my monologues. And then I would use that as practice. And then I transitioned for putting that paper down and just going by memory. So
Wow.
those are my two strategies that I use mostly. It's a lot of work, but yeah. And especially to be word perfect.
Sorry, when you're pursuing word perfect.
Yes,
Nice.
I always try to pursue word perfect.
Absolutely.
Playwrights that WRIGHT, they rot over those words. So I want to make sure I honor those words.
Absolutely.
Playwrights.
When you're in the moment on stage, for me, when I feel myself going up, I could picture the page that I'm on. Like I can see the page number and then the specific part of the page. Like I might not see the words necessarily, but my brain sees the picture of where I am, and then I know what I'm supposed to say. In the moment for you, how does that manifest itself? Is it just the repetition and it's just there? Or
I think it's the repetition. I think it's like hearing the voice of the actor in my head too. I'm really not sure how my broken brain works, but that is a part of it. When you have a traumatic brain injury, you do what's best for your brain. And I do think, tracking to, what scenes and what's happening. I do outlines of plays, what the story is, following the story. So
as you sit now, oh God.
No, I was just saying, call me crazy.
Oh no, never that.
My special kind of crazy.
I told you.
Let's get rid
You're
of
a fire I wouldn't dare try to control. You be who you are. I'll let you burn.
I'm not gonna burn up. I'm a phoenix. I just keep rising from that.
That's right. That's right. You'll be with us. As you look at 2021, and we talked about this climate, it's different politically than I've ever been aware of in my life. It's been far from perfect for a lot of us for more than a few centuries. But now I think there is a sense of, for everyone, just how volatile the mix is. What are some of the things you are intending to do with your art in the next chapter of your life?
I want to be even more authentic than I've ever been. And I think I've always shown up in my authenticity because I don't know how to be anything but that. But now, even those like parts of me that I wanted to hide, I want to show up as Lisa Young, this Black woman who is disabled and outspoken and caring. I love hard. I love people with a lot of heart, and I try to meet people where they are because of that compassion I have from knowing what I haven't received. And I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt, right?
Yeah.
That they are more than what you see, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, I want you to be able to see more than what I show, I guess.
Yes. Absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, I honestly don't want to hide anymore. I don't want to code switch. That's gone. I can't anymore. And because living in duality is hard. It is really hard.
It's exhausting.
And it's so exhausting. There are nights that you kind of sit down and I don't know about you, but I think about how conversations went, and it's like, I wish I would have said this, or I wish I would have said this in my truth. right?
Hmm.
And I'm tired of that. I can't do that anymore. I'm just gonna show up as I am, and either you're gonna love me or you're gonna tell me to, bring it down a little. And no, I can't.
Yeah.
I think you know, my one thing I've always said is like, oh, you're so loud. No, I'm not loud. I'm a professionally trained actor. I'm projecting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that I am projecting it, and I'm making sure you hear me,
Hmm.
right? And listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth, Chris Tucker. So, and
Nice Rush Hour reference. I'm here for it.
anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you like sports. I love movies and books and Funko Pops.
All
I
right.
keep saying that.
I got plenty of Funko Pops. I'm staring at Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, Nikola Jokic, Jerry Rice. I got some
you
Batman
want to
Funko
share
Pops over there.
We might have to do a Funko Pop.
I love Funko
I
Pops.
just got TLC, and I got the Chase one of Chili, the blue waterfall. So I have her real one, then I have her waterfall one.
Oh, nice.
So, don't get me started on Funko Pops.
They're so adorable. I don't understand why people don't have 100 of them in their houses at all times.
I probably have 100. I probably had 200. Don't tell my husband, but I probably had 200.
I won't tell him anything. Your secret.
He'll probably listen to this. He walks over them every day, so it's fine. I was falling off a shelf.
I realized I had too many when my dog started like chewing on my Venom Funko Pop's head. I was like, okay, yeah, put that up higher.
Oh yeah,
way too accessible. Way too accessible.
Yeah, get him his own doggy Funko Pop, something that looks like it. Dogs are too smart. And shout out to Kajardo Lindsay's dog just chewed up his remote control. I just saw today too.
Oh no.
Dogs always chew the things that you could buy them 1,000 different toys. And it's like, oh, what's this thing that you're always playing with? Oh, your iPhone 12? That looks delicious, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. I don't know how many gifts I've given this little guy, and it's just nothing. Doesn't do it for him. They're all on his bed. He plays with them for like 30 seconds, and the rest of the time he just sleeps. Like, whatever, man.
Okay, I want to see you a doggy.
You want to see my dog? All right.
Of course, I want to see your dog.
He's passed out.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
That's the boy right there.
I wish I could sleep like dog. I wish I could play and sleep like dogs, right?
Oh my God. I mean, the way they sleep, it's like they never have back problems. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. But don't forget you have to do that circle 3 times, and then
you gotta make sure you got the right comfort zone. You gotta push it all down. It's a whole science for a dog. Yeah, absolutely.
Dog science. Yes.
What is that ghost light you wish was left on for you before you started your career that you'd like to leave on for the next generation or for the ghosties listening at home?
Great question, Sam. I'm standing on the shoulders of so many giants. I want to just put Jeffrey Nicholson's name into the atmosphere. When I came back from Louisiana from college, and I was like, I wonder what's going on in Colorado theater, and I got interested in jumping back into the fray. Jeffrey is the owner and founder of Shadow Theater Company, which is now where Vintage sits, right? And I think of the blood, sweat, and tears that man took. I believe that was an auto shop and built a theater out of, right? And I spoke to Jeffrey and I said, Jeffrey, I really, I've been watching Black theater in Colorado since Eulipians, and Shadow started when I was a kid. And I really, would love to get back on stage and do some work. And he was going to be one of my mentors, and then we lost him, right? Mm-hmm. And just devastated at the fact that there could have been so much more from him. So I want to leave everything on the playing field. Just you're a sports guy. I don't want to leave anything. I don't leave anything in the locker room. I want to put it all out there. And I know I have to say no to some things, but I want more opportunities to and I want to prepare more opportunities for, I teach at Boston K through 8. I teach drama to Black and Brown children who are first-year immigrants, who are refugees, who are, below the poverty line. I teach kids who the only meals they get or the only shelter they get is when they're in school. And I want to leave a legacy where they have a home, where they can, first of all, learn their craft, and then just the light will never go off for them.
Mm-hmm.
The light remains on. And those stories, because even if they're not actors, even if they're not directors, they might be our new playwrights, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are children who have traveled to this country and have learned English. Could you imagine the stories they could tell about not only the atrocities they've seen, but the beauty of life that they have learned, the giving spirit of humans who had no, they had no skin in the game, other than there's a hungry child or a cold child or an uneducated child, and what it felt like for that kid to have that person save their life, literally. Those stories need to be told. So yeah, I would hope that the ghost light that I leave on and my legacy would be that I think about little Lisa, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think about her eyes being open and the magic that she saw. I want to see those eyes pop open on these kids and have them see, oh, I can make magic. I can, first of all, I can leave my life for just a moment and be anything, anyone, anything. And that might even be the catalyst or the spark that takes them somewhere else in life. They may not even be in the arts, but I think that's what's important.
Absolutely. Lisa Young, thank you so much for joining us today. You are magic.
Oh.
You don't just create it. Dan, this is the Ghost Lights podcast. Do the damn thing.